presentations and public meetings. Unfinished business. Signed bylaw March 12, 2009. Deferral of business licensing bylaw appeal hearing of November the 12th, 2015. We'll speak to that later on. Other agency reports. Could we have the OPP, please? Good morning, gentlemen.
Yes, sir. All right. Today we're here to discuss our August 2016 statistics. So you have in front of you the Police Service Board report for the Westfield Saginaw Beach municipality. Again, I can skim through it real quick, but if you have any specific questions, I can take on any questions you may have. I acknowledged it on our July one. I don't know why it keeps printing out this way, but in violent crime, the murders are actually 2, not 3. The third one was Springwater, just so you know, year to date. Just highlighting some spikes, either up or down. Our sexual assaults are actually 50% down from this time in 2015. Robberies are way down as well. Property crimes, again, we have a very positive trend in Saginaw Beach where our theft, unders, and mischiefs are actually quite down, which is much different than the provincial average, so it's a good thing. Everything else is pretty much the same as this time last year. Drug crimes, our possessions are significantly up. Trafficking, it appears, are down, but just the involvement of the investigation is much more intense for trafficking charges, so we are working towards that. Clearance rates, and then just Highway Traffic Act offenses. Criminal code traffic slightly up. Highway traffic is 1.6% down. On that, October 18th, which is next Tuesday, we start our new community response program where we have 2 members permanently assigned in the Huroney West Detachment for traffic enforcement and community response to spiking crime such as break-and-enters and the such. So any spikes that we have in our statistics, these members will be specifically assigned to whatever municipality is feeling that impact over and above our platoon response and our street crime and our major crime. So this is a reinvestment of members within the detachment. It's not net new members, but I anticipate some very good positive gains from this. As far as breaking down the traffic related charges, we're up in speeding and we're up in impaired drivers, unfortunately, by 35% from 2015 and year to date. We're slightly down in seatbelts and we're significantly down in distracted drivers, so we're not seeing it as much, and people are getting a little better at it. They're using Bluetooth, but they're also hiding it, making it a little harder to catch them in the act. As far as collisions, again, knock on wood, we're down 1 for fatalities, and we're down 5% in personal injury collisions. We're slightly up in property damage collisions. So we're almost at the same amount of collisions, but we're seeing less severe collisions. And I'd like to attribute that to us targeting the speeding, because it's proven that the speed of motor vehicles at time of impact directly relates to the injury that's sustained by the motorist. So one of our main targets is speeding motor vehicles throughout the detachment area, and this is actually reducing some of the carnage that we're responding to on our roadways. And it's a quick perusal of our stats. There's nothing strikingly changing from month to month at this point, but if there's any specific questions council may have, We're
Any
here.
questions? Yes, Mr. Mayor?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you, the drug issue, is it an issue, or is it that we're spending more time working on it and that's why we're catching more people, or is this across the region, across the province, or is it to Wasaga Beach only?
If you want to call it a drug issue, the possession was of illegal or in contravention of the Controlled Drugs and Substance Act was up. It was openly visible for our frontline members this year to date, to the summer, throughout the summer. So it was very easy to lay possession charges. It was very easy to find. It didn't take much effort, so there's more of it out there. The trafficking takes a considerable amount of additional resources to prosecute. So requires search warrants, requires surveillance, requires many other tactics. And we are employed in doing that. And as I mentioned in previous meetings, that we are targeting the source, which is the dealers. And the investigations are much more involved. So we're not going to have the major numbers, but every time we take one dealer down, it really affects the possession charges that are out there. So, you know, it's very prevalent, the use of controlled substances during our day-to-day interactions with the public. And that could be marijuana, it could be cocaine, could be club drugs, could be meth. They're all up there, prescription drugs.
Yes, Mr. Mayor?
If I may, Mr. Chair, one other question was with respect to what the detachment commander just touched on. The majority of these drug charges, are they marijuana, what they would consider a light drug, or are they heavier drugs?
It's okay. So out of the possessions of say 67, if I do review those reports, I would say probably a little over half would be marijuana related, and then surprising how much cocaine's probably 25%.
Really? Wow.
Yeah. And then everything else kind of fits in the other kind of 20%.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Ms. Kelsler?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, to the detachment commander there. I had a question from somebody this week and I couldn't answer it. Impaired driving doesn't, they are saying it did not include if you were high on drugs or anything like that. Is that correct? That you can't charge them with impaired if they're doing drugs?
No, there's a section in the criminal code that's impaired operation of a motor vehicle, and it can it's either by drug or by alcohol. The difference is how we prove it and the process that we have when we suspect that you're impaired by the drug as opposed to impaired by the alcohol. The alcohol is an exact science. We have technical instruments that measure the amount of alcohol in your system at the time of driving, which makes it very easy for us to prove that you're over the legal limit. Drug, we can prove that you have drug, we can't prove the quantity of drug. So now we have to go the other way around on proving impairment. So now we have to have very specific training. We have officers that are designated as SFST officers, DRE officers. What that means is, for alcohol, when someone fails the roadside or they just show all kinds of indicia of impairment, and we detect the alcohol, we now reasonably believe that they're impaired by alcohol. We'll bring them to a qualified technician, which is the breath tech. Breath tech's trained on utilizing a very specific instrument to determine how much alcohol is in your blood. These SFST and drug recognition experts, what they do is they do a series of tests, including urine analysis. So they draw urine sample from the suspect, and they can determine your impairment at the time of driving. It's all opinion based, but the courts are believing in it because they've been designated as experts. And our experts, we have 2 people right now from this detachment that fly out Saturday to Maricopa, Arizona to do their field test on live subjects at the Maricopa State Prison, where they have drug-induced subjects, and they do analysis on these people to get their expert status on determining impairment by drug. pupils of the eyes, all the different symptoms. So we're increasing at the Ernie West Detachment the amount of people. We will be up to 4 drug recognition experts by early winter, and that's going to be a big help for us on prosecuting the impaired by drug. The other way to do it is we got to get a blood warrant, and we seize a vial of blood, like if it's crashed, like a motor vehicle collision related, and we have Center Forensic Science analyze the blood for us, or the hospital analyzes it, and we get a search warrant to get the medical records from that. That's another way to prove it as well. But we're now branching off into 2 different technical ways of proving impaired by drug. The charge has been there a very long time. Our methods and expertise on proving it in court is really catching up with the laws now.
Thank you, Manager.
Councillor Stockwell?
Thanks. Oh, sorry. Go ahead. Is that okay, Chair?
Yes.
Thank you. I just, I'm assuming that the actual behavior of the driving or the incident observed would also have serious charges that could be applied other than being under the influence of drugs, so that it may not be captured under the drug law, but those people would still potentially be charged with some offense.
Yes, and the province of Ontario has just increased the impaired by drug penalties for us, effective this month. That if we have an expert on their opinion believe that you're impaired by drug, even though at the time we can't prove it, we're just going on opinion, your license will be impounded, your car will be impounded for 7 days, your license will be impounded for 45 days, similar to the impaired by alcohol. So it's all catching up now to impaired by alcohol. So there are penalties, basically roadside, to ensure that they don't continue to commit the offense and put motoring public in danger.
Thank you.
Councillor Stockwell?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Through you to deputation. Where are we in the province regarding the legalization of marijuana and the shops, so to speak? I know in other provinces, BC, they're well into it, and even though there's legalized shops, there's the guys that are setting up non-legal shops, but where are we in the province?
Well, we're pretty much on board with the rest of the country, believe it or not. As we all know, the federal government is pushing, it's in their mandate, their promise, that they will legalize marijuana. I do believe that will happen based on the information I'm getting. When that will happen, it's possible it could happen as soon as early 2017. The medical marijuana process has been live and well for several years. So there are several people that have licenses to grow, both in their residences and at hubs, as the federal government calls it, monitored by Health Canada. They're the ones that issue the licenses. In our experience, when we do drug investigations now, and we suspect or learn that there's a marijuana grow, before we do take any police action, we have to notify Health Canada to determine what the license is, if any, and what the plant number shall be or should be, because as soon as you see marijuana now, you can't assume that it's illegal when it's being grown. We have to prove that it's not legal before we can even take action on it. So there's extra steps put in, different levels of government. But where are we? Toronto saw a big increase in the storefronts that were selling legal marijuana for medical purposes. The guidelines for that are very loose. They're enforcing the guidelines, and it's still a gray area. It's not black and white for us. So it's a case-by-case basis for us. I can't speak for the entire province. We've not, that I'm not aware of in this detachment area of any storefronts that are selling marijuana. Yet. This is a growing trend. It's a big dollar business. I've recently went to a conference with the Colonel of Colorado State Police, who address commissioned officers for the OPP on the effects that Colorado State felt after they legalized marijuana in that state. And, we are trying to get ahead of that pattern so that Ontario and ultimately Canada learns from the lessons that they learned from to put the proper guidelines and restrictions on this substance.
Just a follow-up question, Mr. Chairman. So is it fair to assume that over a period of time, you will see them in your detachments?
To some extent, yes. Once it becomes legal, we can't, depending on, again, the rules. Nobody knows at this point, or the police community doesn't know exactly what it's going to look like yet. We can anticipate, but we don't know for sure. So we don't know what our enforcement powers, if any, will be. I know that we're really challenging the federal government to have the similar type restrictions as alcohol in the community. No driving, underage, no schools, like very restrict, like basically what you do in your private home is your private home, but right. Again, public spaces are public spaces and it should be treated very much the same if it becomes legal. That gives us the ability to enforce it as we do alcohol in our communities for public safety.
So it's ongoing.
Oh, it's very much ongoing. There's lots more to come from this.
Thank you.
Anybody else? I just have one question. Under, if you pull somebody over and stop them under legalized marijuana, if you detect that they are, say, high on marijuana, but it's prescription marijuana, can you still charge them?
Yes, because it's still a criminal code offense to drive while impaired by alcohol or drug. The license allows them to have a quantity of marijuana in their possession, and they can utilize the marijuana in a private residence just like any other prescription drug. But even with prescription drugs, if we find that your ability to operate a motor vehicle is impaired and you're on prescription drugs, you can still be charged with impaired by drug. So whether it's marijuana, prescription drugs from your doctor, fully legal, or cocaine, we can still charge you with the same offense of impaired by drug. We just need to prove it either through blood analysis, urine analysis, or drug recognition expert to prove it in court.
Thank you very much. Any further questions? I'll read the motion. Moved by Councillor Stockwell, seconded by Councillor Belanger. Resolved that the Community Service Section of the Coordinating Committee does hereby receive the August 2016 Police Services Board Report for information.
Oh, yes. So a recorded vote will be asked for. The motion having been read, I'll ask the members to respond with a in favor or against. Councillor Belanger.
In favor.
Deputy Mayor Byford. In favor. Councillor Bray. In favor. Councillor Smith. In favor. Mayor Smith.
In favor?
Councillor Stockwell.
In favor.
Mr. Chair.
In favor.
The vote is 7-0 in favor. The motion is carried.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Have a good day. Fire department, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good morning, committee members.
Good morning.
Oh, I thought I did look at that.
That's quite all right.
So good morning. The fire department responded to 101 calls for service in the month of September. No major incidents or notable occurrences really to speak to. I did look at our summer. I always look at our summer months. Take May, June, July, and August, and do a comparison of those 4 months. And this past summer was a significant increase. We've seen an increase of 25 to 35 calls over the previous summers. This year there was an increase from 2015 500 calls to 651. So quite an increase this summer. Again, we always look at weather being a huge impact, so that certainly contributed to those calls. This week is Fire Prevention Week. Everybody is aware. Everybody's checked their smoke alarms. The theme this year is check the date on your smoke alarm. They do expire. 10 years is a maximum on a smoke alarm. You should check your instructions though to make sure, because some do expire earlier, but most of them are 10 years. So everybody have a look at their smoke alarms, make sure you test those. Crews are out as we speak at the schools, busy week. We do presentations and fire drills at all our local schools. Yeah, it does spill into next week, with this week being a short week, so they'll be out on Monday as well. I won't speak to the other items. There's some other notes within the report, but if there's any questions, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much. Questions for the chief? No questions? Isn't that nice, Mr. Chief? Thank you very much. Thank you for coming. Fire Department monthly report, moved by Deputy Mayor Biafochi, seconded by Councillor Belanger. Resolved that the Community Service Section of Coordinated Committee has hereby received the October 2016 Fire Department report for information.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you.
The motion has been read. I'll ask for the members to respond. Councillor Belanger.
In favor?
Deputy Mayor. In favor. Councillor Bray. In favor. Councillor Smith.
In favor.
Mayor Smith.
In favor?
Councillor Stockwell.
Favor.
And Mr. Chair.
In favor.
The motion is 7-0 in favor. The motion is carried.
Moving along, consent agenda. All items listed below will be approved by one resolution. There will be no separate discussion on these items unless a council member requests it, in which case the item will be removed from the consent resolution and considered immediately following adoption of the remaining consent agenda items. Madam Clerk, do we have any?
I have,
Yes,
but
I didn't make a list. I apologize, Mr. Chair.
Okay, fine.
I didn't
That's
make a
fine.
list of the ones that were pulled, but we do have the motions prepared. So it would be
Fire Department.
I'm just looking at the fire chief report respecting the reduced fire department volunteer firefighters, the municipal law enforcement monthly activity report. I apologize, I don't have the exact sections. And the parks, facilities, and recreation monthly activity report have been pulled.
Someone would like to speak to the volunteer fire department report? Did you pull it?
yes, Chair, I pulled that, but subsequently I received the information I was looking for, so I can withdraw that.
Is there anybody else? Thank you, Chief. Thank you. We still have to vote here. Sorry. Recommendation that the Community Service Section of the Coordinated Committee hereby receives the October 13th, 2016 consent agenda items 3D through 3F, and that all the recommendations contained therein be adopted as amended. Thank you very much.
So,
Thank you, Madam
Mr.
Clerk.
Chair, and I will ask for the members to respond. Councillor Belanger,
In favor?
Deputy Mayor. In favor. Councillor Bray. In favor. Councillor Smith.
In favor.
Mayor Smith.
In favor?
Councillor Stockwell.
Favor.
And Mr. Chair,
In favor?
the vote is 7-0 in favor. The motion is carried. And this one, Mr. Chair, I'm not sure that you read this aloud.
No, I didn't. Volunteer fire compliment, resolved that, or pardon me, moved by Councillor Stockwell, seconded by Councillor Bray. Resolved that the Community Service Section of the Coordinated Committee recommends to Council that it authorize the fire chief to reduce the fire department volunteer fire complement from 20 to 16.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The motion having been read, I'll ask for the members to respond in favor or against. Mr. Councillor Belanger,
In favor?
Deputy Mayor. In favor. Councillor Bray. In favor. Councillor Smith. In favor. Mayor Smith.
In favor?
Councillor Stockwell.
In favor.
And Mr. Chair.
In favor?
The vote is 7-0. Mr. Chair, the vote is, the motion is carried.
Moving on to municipal law enforcement report. Morning, Doug.
Morning, Mr. Chair.
Would like to speak to this? Yes, Councillor Wonder.
Yeah, I had held a couple of items, and you know, as we go through this and being in budgeting, I received the answer that I needed received to parking offenses, but for the month of September, our parking offenses were down almost 75%, which does have a monetary impact for the town. But the other item that I would maybe make a recommendation to is that every month we report licensing, and licensing obviously has a monetary value attached to it, as well as fluctuation from year to year. The way the report is stated today, we are not able to determine whether licensing fees are increasing or decreasing because we don't indicate prior year and we don't indicate monetary value. And my recommendation would be that in future, and not that it has to be a top priority by any means, but that's something we should look at to determine whether or not there is a monetary benefit to the town.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. In anticipation of the request, we've prepared and I've distributed an example of what we can provide, and if that's an appropriate format, we can continue to provide that format in our monthly reporting.
Did you have a chance to look at it, Councillor?
Yes, I've looked at it now, and that's perfect.
Okay, so we'll continue.
Any other questions?
And sorry, Mr. Chairman, so in relation to the question regarding the parking, I think that there's a couple different factors that we need to look at. In 2016, we had 24 violations listed for the September period. Most of these are associated with the summer crowd, the end of the long weekend sickness, a sudden end to the need to have parking enforcement in the beachfront.
Yeah, it's Doug, from my perspective, I had received information that I was satisfied with. So it's, unless anyone else has.
I just have one question while you're here. Under the unfinished business, these two items on here, is there any reason why they couldn't be removed, or is there still, what is the status on under the unfinished business on our agenda?
I apologize, I don't have the. agenda
Oh, I'm
in front of me.
Well, the first one is the signed bylaw review from 2009.
So, Mr. Chairman, that portion of the review actually was pertaining to some issues that were subsequently dealt with by committee, having to do with some requests for some variance in signs. So we did actually bring forward some amendments to the sign bylaw. So I believe that portion, that original report related to, that was prior to my actually coming to the town, was subsequently satisfied in, I believe, 2013, 2014. We are currently involved in a review of the sign bylaw. It's quite a long and complex process, and it's challenging. But we are at the whole bylaw. This commission is being reviewed. A number of bylaws that we have on signs, trying to amalgamate them. So we'll be.
So, in your estimation, it's still active. Is that correct?
Well, I think the nature of the bylaw review that brought rise to the agenda item has been resolved, and that the signed bylaw review itself was something else. So I think that matter could probably be removed.
Okay, thank you very much. And the other one was the deferral of the business licensing bylaw bill hearing, November the 12th, 2015.
So, Mr. Chair, that relates to a business license for a tourist accommodation property, which was subject to an OMB hearing. And I believe that there is a temporary, there's a resolution from the OMB that hasn't been fully implemented by the individual. So the need for that licensing hearing, I also believe could be removed. The OMB has set terms and conditions for a license to be issued. We just wait for those terms to be met before we issue the license.
Thank you very much. Any further questions? Yes, Councillor Bragg.
Yeah, through you to Doug. At the back of the report, you said your next court appearance was October 6th. Did anything happen October 6th that was worthy of reporting?
No, October 6th was actually failed to appear, and a court date was set. And that would be reported in the November report.
Councillor Smith.
Thank you. I had asked for this section to be pulled concerning the controlled deer hunt.
Oh, okay.
So I'd like a bit of discussion on this because
Councillor Smith, we haven't got that far yet.
Oh, it's in the consent agenda. Sorry.
We're just dealing with this one right here, right now.
I don't know. Did you record that one?
It's coming. We're not there yet.
Okay.
The licensing.
Sorry, we actually did vote on the consent
Yeah.
agenda, and that item was not pulled, so it has already been approved.
Yeah, that's true. Sorry, we already voted on that. It wasn't pulled. Did you request it for it to be pulled?
Mr. Chair, yes, Councillor Smith had advised me, and I think we just made a little mistake when we got the motions out.
Okay. Okay. Does anybody have any objections if we pull this report? Councillor Badafochi? Anybody else? Okay, it's okay if we go ahead.
Our procedures give us carry on and we'll look at our procedural bylaw.
Okay. We'll investigate that later. Pardon?
I just had one more comment related to the bylaw, and that is just a question. Like we list every single offense separately in the report. You know, the OPP with much more significant things just do a summary. I'm just wondering if that's something that some months that's a lot of paper and whether or not it's really a requirement. But that could be just for consideration, just a comment.
Councillor Stockwell?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, in regards to the deer hunt, we have dealt with it. I agree with the Deputy Mayor on that. Probably the simplest thing to do is to speak to it at council. You can pull the item at council and make it up for ratification. If we're in a box today that we can't go back to it, then it's not fait accompli until it gets approved by council. So we could speak to the council.
Thank you, Councillor Stockwell. going to read the municipal law enforcement report if nobody else has any more questions. Resolved that the Community Service Section of Coordinated Committee does hereby recommend to Council that it receive the October 2016 Municipal Law Enforcement Department Monthly Activity Report for information.
Mr. Chair, the motion having been read, I'll ask for the members to respond in favor or against. Councillor Boulanger.
In favor.
Deputy Mayor.
In favor.
Councillor Bray.
In favor?
Councillor Smith.
In favor.
Mayor Smith.
In favor?
Councillor Stockwell.
Favor.
And Mr. Chair.
In favor.
The motion is 7 in favor, 0 against. The motion is carried.
Moving on to Parks and Recreation Facilities. I have a motion here, the result that the Community Service Section of Coordinating Committee does hereby receive the Parks, Facilities, and Recreation Monthly Activity Report as information. Somebody pull this. Would you like to come forward, Jerry, please? Is there any questions for the director? Did we have any other reports? Nobody. Sorry, we have a line here.
Just a moment, Mr. Chair, and I'll look at my notes here.
Nobody pulled it. No, I think I'm on.
It's been separated already, so.
Mr. Chair, perhaps that's the error that we made. We may have pulled that one instead of the deer hunt for a separate motion. So what I would suggest is, since we've already pulled it from the main motion, we do have to present that motion.
Okay, question number 2. And
Once it's been pulled. Once it's been pulled. That's not
that is, yeah, but okay, thank you. I read the motion already, but I'll read it again. No. Moved by Deputy Mayor by Bochi, seconded by Councillor Boulanger. Resolved that the Community Service Section of the Coordinating Committee does hereby receive the Park, Facility, and Recreation Monthly Activity Report as information. Thank you, Jerry, for all that confusion.
My pleasure. Good morning.
Mr. Chair, the motion having been read, I'll ask the members to respond with an in favor or against. Councillor Boulanger.
In favor.
Deputy Mayor by Fulci.
In favor.
Councillor Bray.
In favor?
Councillor Smith.
In favor.
Mayor Smith.
In favor?
Councillor Stockwell.
In favor.
Councillor Chair. Mr. Chair.
In favor.
The vote is 7 to 0 in favor. The vote is carried. Mr. Chair, with respect to Councillor Smith's request, I was just looking up the rules for reconsideration. You can reconsider something that Council has previously adopted, and this hasn't gone to Council yet, so that wouldn't apply. I'm just looking for a suspension of the rules. The members could, here we are, motion to suspend the rules. I'm just looking to see what the vote would need to be if the members would like to suspend the rules and go back and look at that topic. And if that doesn't work, then Councillor Stockwell's suggestion that when we go forward to Council, she can speak to it. A motion to suspend the rules requires a 2/3 vote. So if we wanted to suspend the rules and go back and re-vote on that, we could, but it would require a 2/3 vote at the committee.
In favor?
2/3 vote in favor to suspend the rules and go back and discuss that. If Councillor Smith does not get the 2/3, then she would be able to bring it up at Council and have the discussion then at the time that the committee report comes forward.
Well, I would rather deal with it now if we can, so I'll ask for a vote. Those in favor?
This is to reconsider.
Not to reconsider, to
suspend
suspend
the
the
rules.
rules so that we could go back and discuss it.
Okay.
It carries. Thank you. Can you pull that one then?
And then we have that motion, or do we have
Under rather road that we have.
we'll quickly read up the motion.
Thank you. Just while that's being done, I'm just wanted to maybe address the what happened here today. I think for convenience, we let the clerk know which ones we want pulled, but at the table when the chair asks about items to be pulled, I don't think it should be on the clerk to do that. I think if we personally want something pulled, we need to be responsible to say, that's the one I want to pull, just to avoid a situation like this in the future. So while we may let the clerk know, it's only for convenience so that we can have them printed and we can keep things going, but it is still our responsibility to ensure that that is pulled. So just a comment.
Good point. Thank you, Deputy.
Mr. Chair, if the discussion, if you'd like to proceed with the discussion while I'm ready for the motion, and then we'll present the motion.
Thank you. Councillor Smith?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted this for discussion because last year we had the discussion of allowing the exemptions for a year, and the mayor and myself did not support it, and we supported it, but we said we would not support it again this year. I believe this issue has come up year after year with with council, and it's always next year or maybe next year, and then it comes up and they say, well, one more year. And I really think we need to put this issue to bed. I understand, and I looked at the plan because I do know the area, and I still think it's very close to Park Place when I can hear the shots from my house. I'm sorry if that's a conflict, but the thing is for the neighbors and the neighborhood, I think it's growing out that end of town, and I think that it's a lot of people are walking their dogs, walking through the properties, and I believe that I'm not in support of this because of my feelings haven't changed over the years. And I think that if there are people that are abusing it and hunting without a permit, that if somebody sees that, they should be reported. But I'm not in favor of supporting this year.
Yes, Deputy Mayor.
Thank you. The Rythers have been hunting on this property for a number of years. Yes, development has occurred around their property. Yes, people may trespass on their property, but that's an infraction that they're making. They've been responsible hunters. 100 acres is a reasonable amount of land for someone to hunt on. I come from a hunting family. There has been no issues in the past other than people who have moved to the area saying we can hear shots. Those people are now infringing on that landowner's right. So I will be supporting it.
Yes, Councillor Slaughter.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, we've spoken of this before, and I always start off by saying that I'm not a hunter. I don't own a gun, never have, probably never will. But I think it does serve a purpose, you know, for anyone who lives in this community and drives at certain times of the year. I mean, the deer that leave the forest, so to speak, and step out of are very dangerous. In fact, anyone who hits a deer knows that it can take off in front of your car before you know it, and people who try to pull to avoid them can either end up in a ditch or cause an accident. So I think it culls the pack, and I think until such times as the community grows around it, one of these days it's going to be no longer a rural area, it'll be a fully urban area, and it'll probably come to an end. But I do think it serves a purpose, and I have no problem with supporting it.
Councillor Belanger.
Further to Bill's point, 2 years ago I hit a deer in this area. It jumped over a snowbank out of the woods and caused significant damage to my vehicle. I am supporting it, and only because they did eliminate the longer range rifles this year and went to a shorter range shotgun only for the hunt. So I would be for this year in favor as well.
Mr. Mayor?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you to Doug. Doug, what is the bylaw for Wasaga Beach with respect to hunting in town limits or firing a weapon in town limits?
It prohibits the discharge. It doesn't. We can't regulate hunting through the bylaw. We regulate the discharge of a firearm, and basically, anything from a bow and pellet gun and harm people is considered a firearm. So it requires an exemption of council. Presently, our animal control officer has an exemption to discharge a firearm, usually for dispatching an animal that's been hit and not euthanized to euthanize the animal beside the road. So with care, we permitted that.
So my point here, Mr. Chair, and the reason I speak now is because last year I was one of the members of council, as many members in past councils have indicated, that I'd support it for last year, but I wouldn't support it again after that. And I'll stand by that. I think the riders are very great people. They've been around our community a long, long time. They've been a great asset to our community, and they'll continue to do so. The argument with respect to deer and hunting, whether or not a deer jumps out in front of your car or doesn't, I can tell you there's been hunting for many, many more years than there's been people driving, and deers are still jumping out in front of our vehicles. And it happens in town, it happens in the country. So for me, that dog don't hunt. At the end of the day, we have a bylaw that says no discharge of firearms within town limits. I believe not too long ago, we disallowed a fellow who was here wanting to be able to test bows and arrows that he was making, and we declined that. And here we are again, back at this now for I don't know how many years, indicating that we want to suspend the rule for this to happen. And I said last year I would not support it again, and I simply can't. It's nothing against the Ryder family. I think they're great folks. But at the end of the day, the bylaw is the bylaw, and I've said it before. There's no sense in us having bylaws if we're not going to enforce them.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Councilor Bray?
Thank you, Chair. I think when we turned down when certain members of the table turned down the bylaw for the testing of the bows, there was concern about neighbors because it was in a subdivision property. I think if this one is 100 acres and it's out in the country, then I don't see the same logic for turning it down. That's kind of my only comment.
Councilor Smith?
Thank you. Just to speak again on this issue. When we moved into our subdivision, there were a lot of deer, and we've heard that from other people that have got, when they complain of stuff, when a developer comes in and they're saying, well, there's deer and whatever. And I've noticed, and I'm sure others have noticed, that deer population has decreased as the subdivisions have grown. I'm sure that's taken care of some of the population of the deer. I'm anti-hunting, so you understand where I'm coming from. But I'm anti-hunting close to residential areas. I myself am afraid of guns and gunshots, and that does not sit well with me when I hear gunshots going all the time. But having said that, I know the areas that the deer cross. I drive carefully in that area, knowing that the deer are there. And I personally liked having the deer come in my backyard. So, and for the reason that our bylaw says not within the town limits, and what I said earlier, I mean, this has been on the agenda every year. I like the riders for the same reason. I'm just opposed to discharging, and it is against our bylaw right now. So that's my argument.
Any further questions? Yes, Councilor Holmes.
Thank you, Chair. I just want to say that based on the approvals that have happened in the past and the fact they are picking an area of the property and reduce the range of the hunting instruments, for a better word, being used, that I'm still willing to approve. However, if there were any further encroachment of residents towards that farm in future, I would be much less receptive to approve. So.
Mr. Mayor?
I think it's also important to note that although this is 100 acres, that's all well and good, but if you fire a weapon that's capable of firing 200 meters.
Requests for exemptions for bow hunting. So if bow hunting is taking place, it's illegal in regards to fire bylaw in that area. If it happens outside, we were very close to our municipal boundaries for Springwater Township. They may also have bow hunting just on the outskirts, the peripheries of the existing property.
Question, if we were to say that there was only bow hunting allowed on this property to reduce the noise problem and the gun problem, could that be acceptable?
I can't speak to whether it would be acceptable or not. We have to look at it differently.
Okay. Thank you. Gonna call the motion. I can read it. Moved by Councillor Stockwell, seconded by Deputy Mayor Biafochi, that the Community Service Section of Coordinated Committee recommends to Council that it permit an exemption to the Firearms Control Bylaw 99-20 to permit Paul and Marcia Ryder to hold a controlled deer hunt for 5 days in November on their 100-acre farm located at 26 Ryder Road.
Mr. Chair, the motion has been read. I'll ask the members to respond in favor or against. Okay, I need one of these. Councillor Belanger,
In favor?
Deputy Mayor Biafochi,
In favor.
Councillor Bray,
In favor.
Councillor Smith,
Opposed?
opposed. Councillor Mayor Smith,
Opposed?
Councillor Stockwell,
Favor.
and Mr. Chair.
In favor.
Did I catch everyone on that? I'm doctoring a template here. Okay, so we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in favor, 2 against. The motion is carried.
Could I add something?
I'm sorry, Mr. Ryder. Here we go again. Could I have committee's approval that Mr. Ryder could say a few words?
Make it short.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. About the noise from the guns, the shots last year, our crew, or my brother-in-law and my wife and I, mostly myself, there wasn't one shot fired on our property last year. There's no deer. But behind us, that's where all the noises come from. And coming from the Nottawasaga River, which echoes right up through that subdivision.
Mr. Chair, if I may, so coming from behind the Ryder's property, as Mr. Ryder's indicated, and the noise we're hearing, Nottawasaga River, is that still within our boundary?
Through you, Mr. Chair, some of that could be within our boundaries, some of it will be outside the boundary because of the direction the river flows. And additionally, to the west of that corner property there, the southeastern corner of our municipality abuts Springwater Township, and there's a lot of goose hunting in the fields in Springwater Township. So that's also another source of sound which carries right across the lake. It goes right across the lake from the east.
Thank you, Mr. Ryder.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, I'll call this meeting adjourned. No.
No, 20, 3, 1.
You think I can get down there in 3 minutes?
Oh, because I told her to, so that she knew that she could do emotions.
In the afternoon.
Oh, that gives me.
You get all lunch hour.
Thank you.